I'm Granny Shara, and today I'm representing the granny woman who served a community with her plant remedies. The pioneers, or let's just say 200 years ago, there were no doctors, hospitals, drugstores. So when somebody got sick, you didn't have time to ride a horse 100 miles away to find a doctor. You needed help sooner. So what they did was use the method of going out into the woods, and their Bibles had told them that God had made everything good for medicine and good for food, the fruit for food and the leaves for medicine. And because of that, when something happened, they would go out and try it. Trial and error. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes they got well very quickly, sometimes they might die. But trial and error has led us down through the hundreds of years and taught us what plant works for what ill that we might have. Um, I want you to look at and let me tell you this. Because of what we've learned, pharmaceuticals people are asking questions, reading books, reading old notes. What did your great great grandmother say do? And because of that, 75% of the medicines that you and I take are derived from plants, and 15% more from mushrooms, mycelium. So let's get started and look at, I want you to tell me something that you've had an experience with, and I'll tell you what is good to heal it.
Let's talk about earache.
Okay, earache. This is a small tree that grows in the woods, and it has, in the wintertime, it has no leaves on it. In the summertime, it'll have a long leaf. In the trees, it'll be at least, the leaf might be this long. It looks like a limb, but it's actually a leaf. And in the top of it will be a bloom that is this big with black berries on it. Only one bloom right in the top. So that kind of tells you how to recognize it. If you were pulling up a hill, going up a steep hill, and reached up here and grabbed this to help you pull yourself up, you would find there's spines on it. Can you see those spines?
Ooh, yeah, that would hurt.
And that's why it was named Devil's Walking Stick.
Mm-hmm.
And a stick because it had no leaves on it. Okay, I would go out and I would find this Devil's Walking Stick. Did you say a toothache or an earache?
Earache.
Okay, I'm going to tell you toothache first. This plant is anesthetic. If I scraped off the bark and chewed it, it would make my mouth numb. Anesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's toothache. Then if you had an earache, you would chop this into pieces, and you would preserve it in an oil. One of the ways they preserved medicine plants were infused herbal oils. So in here would be, and it'll keep for years. It'll never get old. So if you had an earache, they would warm it up, maybe with their hands, maybe over a lamp fire, whatever heat source they might have. They would warm this up, put it in the ear. And if they had a little piece of cotton, they would probably put a little piece of cotton in there to keep the oil from running out so that your ear would stay full of the oil. Worked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else?
Let's go to spider bite.
All right, a spider bite. When we think of a spider bite, around here we have only two spiders that bite and could cause problems, and that's the black widow and the brown recluse. We hardly ever see a black widow bite,
Mm-hmm.
but we do see brown recluse spider bites because they hide in places in your house. So a spider bite, this too, cuts and sores or a bee or wasp sting are all treated with two plants. One is called jewelweed, which is a plant that grows here. And well, cut it off a minute. No, here it is. Okay. This is what jewelweed cures. Jewelweed's a
Lot of
real
skin.
plant.
A lot of skin problems.
A lot of skin problems, mostly skin problems. And the pioneers had a plant that they brought from England. This one is just about wilted. That's called plantain, and it was so good at healing things that they brought it with them all the way. And then they gave it to the Indians, and then every time they moved, they dug it up and moved it. So it's all over the place. It's in your yard. It's a plant that is easy to identify. It has a rosette, which means all the leaves are in a flower at the bottom, and then it'll send up a bloom stalk that's about this tall with a little thimble-looking thing on it. That's how you recognize it. This one is not a native. It's the one that came from England, which is an equivalent plant to jewelweed. Shall I tell about would you like to hear about how my husband got cured of a spider bite?
Please do.
He came home one day and his blue jeans were so tight on his leg we could hardly get them off. And when we did, there was a red streak going all the way to his groin from his bottom part of his leg. And he had 105 degrees of fever. And he was having rigors. And he would not go to the emergency room. And I was really concerned. So I thought, I teach about this, I'm going to go out and get some and try it. So I went out and got a plant like this one. And I, roots and all, washed it off and put it in a pot and covered it with water. Brought it to a boil. Didn't boil it, but brought it to a boil. Then smushed it up in the pan. And for him, I made a poultice out of the liquid that came. I made a poultice and put on his leg.
Yeah.
And do you know that within 35 minutes, that swelling had gone down? That fever had gone down? Not all the way for either one of them. Tremendously, though, in 35 minutes. So, we didn't go to the emergency room. He said he was too sick to start with, but we went to the doctor on Monday morning, and he said, I don't have anything that works like that. Keep using it. And so we did. I kept it on him in the bed. I kept it on him constantly all weekend and tied it on with an old stocking that kept it on all night. So it really, really works. For things like cuts and sores and bee and wasp stings, if it's not a big place, I just get a leaf and chew it like this. And see the dark?
Right.
It brings out the medicine in it. And then I just put it over whatever my sting or my sore or my bite is. And today I would use a Band-Aid over the top of it to hold it up. They would have used a rag of some kind to tie on it, or an old stocking to tie on it. It really works. This is one medicine that I use today, but it's what the pioneers have used for a long, long time. All right, what's next?
Let's go to ringworm and fungus.
Okay, a ringworm and fungus. Do you know what this is?
I do. I don't know whether our viewers do. I bet if they had some black walnut cake, they'd know. Wouldn't they?
Oh, black walnut. Have you ever tasted a black walnut? Well, one time this walnut was green. I have a picture to show you what this walnut looked like. It has a green husk on it, and when that green husk comes off, it has a nut, And then inside that nut is a really, really good black walnut to flavor things. And the black walnut itself is good for you too. It's good to eat. The green part, the best time the most healing time for it is this green hull on it. And that green hull can be peeled off. It will turn your fingers black. And put on a ringworm, or put on your athlete's foot, or any other kind of fungus you have, and it truly, truly will cure that fungus. It will turn you black for a day or two in the area that you put it on, and that's why such a good dye can be made from a black walnut. But how do you preserve it? That's a question we have. We preserve black walnut by chopping up that green outer covering and putting it in what we call a tincture. And that's alcohol. And probably back then they had what would be called homebrew, or what do you call
Moonshine?
Moonshine. Might have put it in moonshine. But you can preserve it forever in a tincture. It's good for worms. And then this way it can be used. It can be taken internally, but you have to be very careful because it's a very powerful medicine. But that is the way that you cure ringworms and fungus.
We used that on my granddaughter. She had a ringworm and it cured it.
You know where I found most of the ringworms? When people come to ask me about it. The pads on football players, so many of them, they're supposed to wear a shirt under them. But so many of them do not, and they'll have ringworms in those pads and pass it on to the guy next year. It can live that long.
Never thought about that.
And so you have to be careful in that. But that tincture is a good way to preserve and keep those medicines. All right, what's another one?
Let's remove some warts.
Remove some warts. It just happens that today is in November, and my wart medicines that I want to show are dormant. Do you know what dormant means?
I do, but you better tell everybody else.
Dormant means it's gone underground for the winter, and there's nothing on top of the ground for me to gather to show you. So I'll show you a picture of bloodroot. And can you see that red root? That's why it's called bloodroot. It's a very caustic plant, which caustic means burning off. So the root picked and red juice put on the wart will take that wart away. We'll just kind of burn it off like you would today. And that could be what the doctors use. I don't know. In a medicinal form. The other one is mayapple. In the springtime, do you remember ever looking in the springtime on a hillside and thinking, oh boy, that's a bunch of little umbrellas? Well, those little umbrellas are mayapple. It's been used for many, many years for venereal warts and lung cancer, different things. Today, they have found St. Jude's, and sometimes some of you raise money for St. Jude's in the Mathathon. Well, you helped develop a medicine from mayapple, which is podophyllum, to cure one kind of children's leukemia. Aren't you proud that you helped in that Mathathon? And there's some other things, but these are the two best ones for curing warts. And we can't see them today, but we can see the pictures. What's the next one?
What have we not done? We haven't done head lice.
We have not done head lice. Okay, this is the pawpaw. The pawpaw tree, people think pawpaws are gone and we don't have them, but they're everywhere here in North Mississippi and on these hills and hollows, especially on the Pontotoc Ridge. A pawpaw is a fruit about half the size of a banana, very custardy. You have to beat the possums and the squirrels to them. You have to just watch them daily to be able to get one right. They taste very good. People are even trying to improve the taste so they become a fruit tree for us, not just in the woods, but to plant in your yard. Let me tell you a little tidbit about this. Learn to crush and smell when you go to the woods. Crush and smell. And learn the smell of this one, because if you go to the woods and you have to go, this is nature's best toilet paper. And you'll learn how to recognize it by its smell.
Another important necessity.
It is, especially if you're out gathering medicine stuff, you know. In this bark is a natural insecticide. It's being used in insecticides today. Today it's also being studied as a very potent cancer drug. In fact, I had a lady last week tell me that she ordered dried pawpaw leaves for $35 a pound. And it would take a lot of leaves to make a pound, because they're now using it to ward off as a tea to ward off cancer. Now that's folk medicine. That's something, but at least they do order it. But now what we have found, what they knew back then, before we have ever learned it, was that if you do get to your pawpaws and eat them, well, you know what? I think my last little piece. No, here it is. Here it is. Sorry about that. I hope you can take that out of this video. Pawpaws have seeds like this. And you dry those seeds. Save your seeds when you eat the pawpaw. Dry them and crush them into a powder. Most people used a mortar and pestle. Crush it into a powder and put it in your hair, and it gets rid of the head lice.
That's good information.
Hey, who knows when we might need it again.
Yep.
All right, what else have we not talked about?
Well, I see wild yam over there.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
This wild yam is a vine, and it has a vine or a potato on the bottom of it. And Diascora is the name of it. It was a precursor to steroids. It's where we learned about steroids. Today, it's used in female hormones. Still used in female hormones. Very potent plant. Very used plant. Wild yam.
I believe that's sweet gum there, isn't it?
This is sweet gum. Okay, we've been asked, people have asked today about cold, which is a virus, flu, which is a virus, corona, which is a virus. People are aware of that. And sweet gum tree is a virus is very hard to kill. Sweet gum tree is antiviral, meaning it fights off a virus, which is very hard to do. Green ones have the same chemical in them as Tamiflu does. You know how expensive Tamiflu is. If you make the decoction from this at the right time, it can treat virus. And you know what? Have you ever heard of the doctrine of signatures? This was what the pioneers brought with them. Trial and error. We talked about trial and error. But they brought with them another. If the plant had part of it that looked like a body part, God must have meant for us to use it for that. And so many times that has turned out to be true for over years and years and years and years, that it still really works. Well, you know, as somebody pointed out yesterday, this looks like a virus.
Doesn't it look like the coronavirus?
Does that not look like a virus under the microscope? So maybe God's sending us a message. I think I'll go home and make some, because they're falling right now in November. Another antiviral, and you'll find that one right out here in the Faulkner Garden. It has, well, you can't tell much about that. depicted, but we could go to the garden and make a picture. This is black elderberry, and it has, looks like that. It has a bloom about this size, and it has hundreds of little black berries on it. And they're used for jellies and jams and to make elderberry wine. It's been a popular thing for years and years, and it's always been what's used for the cold or flu, and now the coronavirus. Today you can buy a syrup at the drugstore that's called Sambucol. Sambucus is the botanical name for elderberry, and it's getting to be more expensive since Corona. But it works. It's antiviral. It really works.
I see you've got some recipes there for simple syrup. Is that for, is this for the elderberry syrup?
No, this one is, yes, Elder Rob, and this one is wild cherry. Bark is used in that recipe. And then bone set. Bone set is right at the back of this building, our doctor's office. There's a plant called bone set, and it was used, it tended to heal things like bones and connective tissue and that kind of thing. Simply needed to be used to put back together things, so it was called bone set. And you'll find that right out back. We could take a picture of that if you need to. So syrups, yes. Poultices, we talked about the poultice when I told you about Ken's spider bite to put in the water. And other things make those too. And there's a sweet gum salve. And this one is talking about heals infected wounds, relieves itching, promotes healing. Very healing salve, even before we knew about the viruses. That doesn't talk about the viruses. But salves can be made out of lard, out of coconut oil.
That's Mr. Tommy Bass's salve, isn't
This
it?
is Mr. Tommy Bass's salve, even without
I keep
thing,
that all
you
the
know.
time.
And it really works, doesn't it?
It works better than anything that I can
And
go and buy.
He has the plantain in it. He has, what all else? He has the jewelweed in it. He has lots of different things that we're showing right here.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And not very high either, is it?
It's well worth it.
Well worth it. Okay, we haven't talked about an allergy.
Okay.
And the best thing for allergies is out there growing right now in the woods and the roadsides. Well, not in the woods, on the roadsides. And that is goldenrod. Beautiful golden plant, the color of that yam over there. And
It's a bad route, doesn't it?
It does. People think they're allergic to it, but they're actually allergic to the ragweed that's growing right beside it. And you know, old folks used to say, if there's something that bothers you, something is growing real close that will heal it. So goldenrod right there heals this allergy to ragweed that comes in the fall, and other allergies too that I found. Gather it when the bugs are around it, bugs and bees, because that's when it's most potent. They're there to get it, so you're there to get it too. And harvest it, and then hang it up to dry in a place where it can get really good and dry, and then it can be stored for all winter with a top seal on it. And the way you use it, and can you see mine's almost gone?
I do.
I'm in a place doing these demonstrations where the smoke has wanted to come right in this door. And I'm allergic to smoke. And I started losing my voice yesterday and started getting sniffles, runny nose and sniffles. Well, I put some goldenrod in this cup of water, and I've been drinking it.
No sniffles today, huh?
I just do it every so often, so I'm keeping them away. It really does work.
Well, we covered a lot today, and it's a lot of good and useful information. And we're here in Dr. Pennebaker's office at the museum, and you can see he mixed his own medicines. And we're here with Miss Shara, our Granny Shara, today, and we thank you. We'll come back and do more another day.
Okay.